You're not even in my financial league. You're not husband material, she said loudly in front of everyone at her party. I just smiled and said, "You're right." Then I sent one message. Minutes later, the helicopter touched down. She started begging. "I'm Tyler, 28, and I run a tech company in Austin. I've been doing this for roughly 4 years now. We work in enterprise software solutions, mainly helping companies organize and protect their data systems. Sounds painfully dull when you say it like that, but corporations will happily pay big money to avoid their infrastructure collapsing. These days, the company is valued at around $50 million. Yeah, $50 million. It started in my apartment with 2 laptops and a lot of late nights. Not just a dream, though. I had a real plan and industry contacts from my previous role at a large tech company. I left once it hit me that I was helping grow someone else's empire instead of building my own. The first year was brutal. Living on cheap food, working 16-hour days, and trying to convince serious companies to trust an unknown guy with their data security. But I knew my stuff. By year 2, we had a dozen clients and my first hires. Year 3, we were bringing in real money and going head-to-head with established firms. What surprised me most was how money messes with people. It changes how they treat you, and usually not in helpful ways. In my early 20s, I dated a few women who suddenly became very interested once they learned about my finances. Everything escalated fast, meeting friends, seeing my place, talking long-term plans. It made me question whether they wanted me or the lifestyle. The answer became clear when things ended the moment they realized I wasn't funding theirs. That left a mark. I got cautious. I stopped sharing details about money. When people asked what I did, I'd just say I worked in tech. Not a lie, just incomplete. Most assumed I was a regular developer making decent money. That was fine, so when I met Madison about 14 months ago, I decided to keep everything completely low-key. No signs of wealth, no flexing. Just see who she was when she thought I was an average software guy. Maybe it was a test. Maybe that makes me calculated. But after past experiences, I needed to know someone cared about me, not my bank account. I met her at Radio Coffee on South Lamar. Great place, always packed with people on laptops. She was there every Tuesday and Thursday, sitting by the window with textbooks spread everywhere, studying for her UT business finals. We'd noticed each other for months, just the usual regular customer nod. She studied like it was combat, highlighters, notes everywhere. I respected it. One day I finally asked if she wanted a coffee refill after her cup sat empty forever. "Is it that obvious I'm struggling?" She laughed. She was stunning, sure, but also sharp. Confident, quick-witted. We talked for 3 hours straight. Finals turned into conversations about Austin's growth, housing prices, traffic, and eventually her family. Old Austin money, generations deep, country clubs, private schools, expectations. She didn't brag, it was just her normal. From the start, I could tell she was quietly assessing where I fit financially. Not greed, more habit. Subtle comments, casual questions, little social temperature checks. For our first real date, I picked her up in my silver 2019 Toyota Camry. Clean, reliable, invisible. She lived in a high-end West Campus building with a doorman. When she saw the car, I caught the look. Brief, controlled, thoughtful, nice car, she said. Polite. The BMW M5 stayed in my garage. That car shouted money. The Camry just said I didn't need to prove anything. I wanted to see how she'd react to dating someone who looked comfortably middle class instead of obviously wealthy. For our next date, I took her to a solid Italian spot on West 6th. Not upscale, not cheap, just good food. The kind of place where $20 gets you a decent pasta. When the bill arrived, I didn't make a scene. Just paid with my card. She offered to split it, which I appreciated, but I told her I had it. "You can get the next one," I said. "Deal," she replied, smiling. What stood out was what she didn't do. She never suggested where that next one might be. Usually, people follow that up with a restaurant they've been wanting to try. She just let it hang over the next few months. I got an education in how people from old money families think about finances. Madison was never openly rude, never cruel. But there were constant small remarks, quiet assessments that placed me somewhere in her mental ranking system. "There's this amazing place in Westlake," she'd say when talking about dinner, "but it's probably pretty expensive." The implication was clear. She wanted to go, but assumed it might be a stretch for me. "My dad might be able to connect you with some tech people," she'd offer, as if I needed help breaking into the industry. Once, after I suggested we split an especially pricey dinner, she smiled and said, I really like how practical you are about money. Most guys try to impress me by spending more than they can afford. It's refreshing that you're honest about your limits. My limit side never said I couldn't afford anything. I just didn't throw money around. But she'd built this story where I was the financially restricted boyfriend who needed understanding, and patience meeting her family confirmed it. 2 months in, I joined them for Sunday brunch at their place. Calling it a house would have been misleading. It was a gated estate in Tarrytown. Main house, pool house, guest house, manicured gardens that looked professionally maintained. Her parents, Catherine and Richard, were courteous but distant. They asked polite questions about my work, nodded while I explained, then shifted the conversation to things that clearly interested them more. Country club chatter, charity events, people and causes I didn't recognize. Software, Richard said like he was sampling the word. Lots of opportunity in that space these days. Austin's becoming quite the tech hub. It is, I agreed. Which startup are you with? I actually run my own company. It's small but growing. Catherine tilted her head. Oh, a founder. That's ambitious. I hope you have enough runway. Most startups don't last very long. Statistically, she wasn't wrong. But the tone made it clear they'd already decided I was temporary, a phase their daughter would eventually move past. Her uncle Garrett was worse. Investment banker, early 50s, dressed head to toe in success. Designer everything. The kind of confidence that comes from never worrying about money again. He spoke to me in that polished, patronizing way that never crossed into outright rudeness, but always left me feeling measured and dismissed first time we met. He shook my hand just a little too firmly. Software, huh? Tough field. Hope you're saving for when the market turns. It's cyclical, I'm aware, I said. He kept going anyway, talking about volatility, downturns, being careful not to overextend financially. Said it like fatherly advice, like I was some kid with a fragile career. Meanwhile, my company had just closed a deal worth more than his annual bonus. I smiled and nodded. I was the polite boyfriend at a family dinner. Later, Madison asked how I thought it went. Your uncle's protective, I said. She laughed. He's like that with everyone I date. He just wants to make sure they're serious, but that wasn't it. He wasn't checking if I was good for her. He was checking if I was rich enough. And in his eyes, I clearly wasn't after that. Every family gathering followed the same script. Garrett would ask about my work. I'd keep it vague. Software, clients, growth. And he'd respond with thinly veiled advice, always reminding me exactly where he thought I belonged. He'd keep offering advice no one asked for. How to be careful with money, how to manage expectations, how careers rarely go the way you plan. Richard would ask about my company with that polite concern that felt more like doubt. Catherine stayed kind but distant, the way you are with someone you don't expect to see long-term. And Madison moved through all of it like it was completely normal. Because for her, this was just how her family functioned. They assessed people, placed them in neat categories, and treated them accordingly. And I had been filed under acceptable for now. The temporary boyfriend. The one who'd eventually be replaced by someone more appropriate. The strange part was how it started getting to me. Not because I doubted my success, but because being treated like your lesser, over and over, slowly messes with your head. I caught myself feeling defensive about my choices, my lifestyle, my lack of interest in living flashier. I even considered telling them the truth, ending the act altogether. But every time I got close, something happened that reminded me exactly why I'd stayed quiet, like the time we went car shopping. Madison didn't need a new car, hers was fine. But she wanted something newer, something that matched the image she had of herself. We ended up at a BMW dealership. She was looking at a 3 Series. Nice, reasonable, nothing wild. The salesperson assumed we were together and launched into a pitch about financing and combined income. Madison laughed. Oh no, it's just for me, she said. Tyler's more of a Camry guy. She didn't say it cruelly. It was casual, almost automatic. Like it was obvious I drove a Camry because that's what I could afford, not because I chose to. The salesperson smoothly shifted his attention to her. I stood there thinking about the BMW sitting in my garage, nicer than anything on that lot. Then there was the birthday dinner with her friends. Fancy steakhouse downtown. The kind where sides cost extra and you're easily spending $200 per person. When the check arrived, everyone started splitting it. Madison pulled out her card, then looked at me with concern. Do you want to split mine with me? She asked quietly. This place is kind of ridiculous, like she was protecting me, doing me a favor. I paid for both of us without saying anything, but it left a sour feeling. She just assumed I needed help. She never said anything openly insulting, but there were patterns. She'd suggest restaurants, then quickly backtrack when she remembered I might not want to spend that much. She'd talk about vacations, Europe, ski trips, then pivot to something more realistic, like a road trip to South Padre. Sometimes she'd joke about wanting a designer bag or expensive jewelry and laugh about how she'd have to wait until she married a rich husband. Always said lightly, always with a smile, like she was being considerate of my limits, but it created this unspoken dynamic. She was the one dating down, being flexible. And I was the guy who should be grateful she didn't mind my financial situation. What bothered me most was that she never actually asked. Never asked what my company made, never asked how I was doing financially. She just decided based on my car and my lifestyle and treated that assumption as fact, and she was comfortable with it. Completely. She wasn't worried that I made less. Wasn't concerned that I couldn't provide the life she grew up with. Because in her mind, this relationship wasn't permanent anyway, I was the practice boyfriend. The guy you date while you're young, before things get serious, before finding someone from your world. Someone who fits the family expectations, the country club, the future she'd been raised to imagine. I'd hear it in the language when she talked to her mom on the phone. When I get married. My future kids, never we, never us small tells. But clear ones, honestly, part of me was relieved. Because when the truth finally came out, when she saw who I really was, I'd know exactly what she'd been thinking all along. No ambiguity. No revisionist history. Her graduation party was last month. She'd been talking about it for weeks. Big event at Westwood Country Club, family tradition. Everyone invited, relatives, family, friends, business connections. Her parents went all out. It's going to be pretty fancy, she warned me a few days before. Like really fancy, open bar, sit-down dinner, dancing. Very formal, sounds great, I said. I'm excited to celebrate with you, she paused. And don't feel like you need to go crazy on a gift or anything. Just you being there is enough. Even that. Managing my expectations about what I could afford. What she didn't know was that I'd already ordered a custom piece of jewelry that cost more than her car. It was being delivered to my place, not hers, and she had no idea what was coming. What's the dress code? I asked. Cocktail attire, she said. But honestly, just wear whatever nice thing you have. No one's going to judge. Translation, they already expect very little from you. What I didn't mention was that I'd been to Westwood Country Club plenty of times, just not as a guest. My company had sponsored their charity golf tournament 2 years in a row. 75 grand last year alone. Photos with board members. A thank you plaque probably still hanging somewhere in the clubhouse. She'd never connected the dots because she never thought to look. That night, I showed up in khakis and a button-down. Respectable but clearly underdressed. Around me were tailored suits, designer dresses, jewelry worth more than houses. Old Austin money on full display. Madison looked perfect. Black dress, professional hair and makeup, completely in her element. This was her world. She introduced me around. Polite smiles, quick handshakes. Mental calculations I could practically see happening. This is Tyler, she'd say. He works in software, not my boyfriend, not a founder. Just software. The party was exactly what you'd expect. Multi-course catering, top-shelf open bar, live jazz. Everything expensive. Everything curated. I spent the first hour in shallow conversations until people politely drifted away. Her dad gave a toast, praising her judgment and bright future, gesturing to the people she surrounded herself with. Quality all around, the implication was obvious. I wasn't part of that picture. Later, we were standing near the bar with her relatives. Garrett was there, talking real estate, dropping buzzwords. Madison was relaxed, a few glasses of champagne in. So, Tyler, Garrett said, smiling thinly. What's your take on Austin commercial real estate? Thinking about diversifying your portfolio, I'm focused on other investments, I replied. Smart, he said, like he was humoring a kid. Real estate takes serious capital. Not for everyone. A few people laughed, then Madison laughed too. A real laugh. Tyler's not really in my financial league, she said casually. He's sweet, but definitely not husband material. Not for this family. Silence. Just a couple of seconds. Enough time for everyone to look at me and wait. Garrett laughed. Someone joked about knowing your limits and the conversation moved on. Like what Madison said was just an accepted fact. Of course I wasn't husband material. Obviously temporary. I stood there processing it. She just announced, in front of everyone, that I wasn't good enough for her family, not cruelly. Not angrily, just stating what she thought was obvious. I could have gotten mad, made a scene, called her out. Instead, I pulled out my phone and sent one text. 3 words en route. ETA8I finished my drink, set the glass down, and straightened my shirt. You're right, I said calmly. I'm not in your league. She looked confused. She'd expected an argument, Tyler. I didn't mean it like that. No, you did. And that's okay. I appreciate the honesty. I checked my watch. 2 minutes around us, people pretended nothing had happened. Except Garrett, who watched me with that satisfied look, like I'd finally accepted my place. Then we heard it. At first faint, then louder. The heavy thump of helicopter blades. People turned toward the windows. A large helicopter came in low over the trees and settled onto the lawn, lights cutting through the dusk. I buttoned my jacket. That's my ride, I said. Madison stared at me. What, my helicopter? I've got a dinner meeting in Houston. Driving would take too long. Her face went blank. You have a helicopter? Garrett asked, suddenly unsure. My company leases it, I said evenly. Faster than commercial when you travel a lot. Madison grabbed my arm. Tyler, what's going on? You said I wasn't husband material because I'm not in your financial league, I said. You're right. I should date someone who actually wants me, not someone waiting to trade up. That's not what I meant, she said, voice cracking. It's exactly what you meant. For 14 months, by now everyone was watching. The helicopter idled on the lawn. Garrett tried to regain control. If you've got that kind of money, he said, why live like you don't? Because I wanted to know who Madison really was, I replied. Turns out she measures people by their bank accounts and thinks a Camry tells the whole story. I gently removed her hand from my arm. She just stood there, mouth slightly open, completely frozen. I've spent over a year watching you and your family treat me like I was beneath you, I said calmly. The comments about my car, my career, your uncle telling me to be realistic like I was living paycheck to paycheck, your parents tolerating me, never including me, and you constantly being considerate of financial limits that only existed in your head. Catherine stepped forward. Tyler, I think there's been a misunderstanding. No, I said. Your daughter just told a room full of people I'm not wealthy enough to marry into this family. She's right. I wouldn't want to. I turned to leave. Madison grabbed my arm. Tyler, please, you never told me. How was I supposed to know? You drove a Toyota. You lived simply. I shouldn't have had to tell you, I said. You should have wanted me either way. Phones were out now. People watching, recording. I didn't care. Richard spoke up, different tone this time. What company do you work? Don't work for one. I own it. Data Shield Solutions. Started it 4 years ago. We're valued around $50 million. We just closed a major deal with Dell. Silence. Garrett stared at me. You're the founder. We looked at investing in your Series B. I passed. Said the founder was too young. That was me, I said. Didn't matter. We got funded. I walked toward the exit. Behind me, the room erupted. Outside, the helicopter waited. Rotors spinning. Tyler, please, Madison said, tears starting now. I didn't mean it. I was showing off. You didn't think I had options, I said. You thought I should be grateful. I climbed into the helicopter. As we lifted off, I saw her standing on the lawn, the entire party watching from the windows. My phone started blowing up before we cleared the city. I silenced it. The Houston dinner meeting was real. $8 million annual deal. Closed it over dessert. Got home after midnight. Slept better than I had in months. The next morning, I finally checked my phone. Dozens of missed calls. Messages ranging from apologies to business pitches. The best one was from her mom. We'd love to have you for dinner and properly welcome you into our circle after 14 months of being treated like I didn't belong. I didn't reply. Not because I'd changed, but because their perception of my value had. That told me everything I needed to know about what the relationship really was. Update. 6 weeks later, Madison has gone full recovery mode, showing up at my office with coffee and apologies. Securities had to escort her out more than once. She cycled through tears, anger, and accusations, claiming I lied by not advertising my wealth. You made me look stupid, she said once, loud enough for half my staff to hear. How was I supposed to know you were successful? You drove a Toyota. That's still what she doesn't understand. I wasn't hiding anything to deceive her. I was living modestly to see her values. The fact she feels embarrassed says everything. Her family's joined in. Richard keeps calling about investment opportunities. Catherine sent flowers and a note about misunderstandings. Garrett suddenly wants lunch to talk business. Like he hadn't spent a year talking down to me. The social pressure has been nonstop. Madison's reached out to mutual friends, framing this as a communication issue. She's even posting old photos of us online with captions about love and growth, rewriting history like she didn't publicly humiliate me. The most revealing moment came 3 weeks ago. I saw her at a restaurant with a guy clearly flexing, expensive watch, loud talk about money. She looked bored. When she saw me, she came over. "He's a loser," she said. "All he talks about is status. I miss someone real after dumping me for not being rich enough. You showed me what matters," she said. Character, substance. What she still doesn't get is that she fell for a version of me she created, the humble guy who needed her world. She never knew the real me. Because the real me was watching how she treated someone she thought couldn't offer her anything. I've told everyone this isn't about ego or hurt feelings. It's about what I learned when she thought I had no value to give. That information doesn't disappear just because someone regrets it later.